Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. So, as you can tell by the title, I am going to be reacting to this YouTuber, and he goes by the name Apostate Prophet. Now, if you don't know who he was apparently a Muslim. He was born, raised like one, I believe so. And he later left Islam, and now his whole YouTube channel is based upon debating with Muslims, talking with non-Muslims, maybe from different faiths or just people in general. And basically his whole point of his YouTube channel is to talk about why Islam is wrong, is not the religion we should be following, and that he is atheist. So he made this one video in particular that I really disliked. And well, I dislike all of his content, but there was this one particular video that he made with a Muslim woman, and she was actually a convert to Islam, and I actually know her, not like in person, but through her YouTube channel. I've watched her learn about Islam and talk about it and then convert. So, anyways, that video you can watch on your own if you feel like it. It's called Muslim Convert Woman Speaks on Child Marriage. And there he pretty much was talking about child marriage. Now, technically, or not even technically, in Islam, there is no child marriage. How do we describe, or what is the definition of a child? What age are you considered to be a child? Well, in Islam, everything becomes everything becomes obligatory when when you hit puberty. So that can range, you know, it can be maybe when you're 11, 13, it's an individual uh thing that happens to us. So once you hit puberty, you then have to, start doing all the things that are obligatory, or it would be considered sinful or haram. So, like, that means praying 5 times a day, fasting. Okay, these are just some examples. But, anyways, he talks about child marriage in Islam. And basically, he is saying to the Muslim woman that how can you be something which is a Muslim and she doesn't support child marriage. So he's saying, how can you be a part of something that supports this in which you don't have any support of? And I want to touch on that. But first, let's get back to what child marriage is. Child marriage is when a child gets married. Pretty straightforward. Well, again, what is a child? What is the age range of a child? A child in Islam, I'll say that, is the ages of when you don't reach the age of puberty yet. Okay? That is when you are a child. When you are a child in Islam, nothing is obligatory. Nothing is a requirement of you because you don't know. You are still too young to realize right and wrong and just all of that. So once you hit puberty, then you start to pray, you start to fast, you start to do everything that you're supposed to be doing, or it would be considered sinful. So, first off, Islam doesn't allow child marriage. When you are a child, meaning when you haven't even reached the age of puberty, you are not allowed to get married. So, there's no child marriage. Now, second, Secondly, he talks about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam marrying a young girl, which is Aisha. Now, Aisha was actually his wife uh, up until he died. So they were married up until then. But, anyways, some people have stated that she was 9 years old. Some people say she was 18 or 19 years old. The point is, that doesn't really matter, her age. As long as she was above the age of puberty, it is Islamically allowed. Now, I'd like to mention something. If you are living in a country that does not abide by Sharia law, which is majority of the world, you have to still abide by those laws, obviously. So just because something in Islam is allowed, like getting married to four wives, for example, is allowed. But maybe, in Italy, that's not allowed by their law. So therefore, it's not allowed for you. Now, another thing, why does that even matter? He brings up a young girl marrying an older man, and that can be harmful, da 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 da. But again, it's not just women, young girls getting married to old men. It can mean when someone hits the age of puberty, let's say, I don't know, you're 15 and you want to get married, and you meet another 15-year-old, for example, and you both want to get married. As long as your parents, and they say parents, a mother has no say per se in a girl getting married Islamically. It's her father, it is her mahram that is in charge, or is the one capable of allowing his daughter to get married, not a mother. So they mention parents, it's just a girl's father or her mahram that will allow her to be married. So keep that in note. Now, another thing. Back then, so a little bit more than 1400 years ago, the prophet, or sorry, the time was shorter. People nowadays, they die usually up until in the mid 70s to 80s to 90s and even to hundreds. There's people that make it to over 100 years old. Okay, back then, that was not a thing. People typically died very, very younger, and their lifespan was shorter. So they died probably between like 60 or even lower than 60, actually. Like 40s, 50s, maybe. And that's because, well, one, there was not a lot of treatments. Like if you were to get sick, there was like no medicine. Or if you were to get some type of injury, there wasn't a doctor around, certain stuff like that. So therefore, people died younger, and just the environments they lived in, which caused them to die at a younger age. So everything was more condensed. Your life was more condensed. Even just a couple hundred years ago in America, people got married in like 13 to 16 years old. That was common. So getting married young isn't just like an Islamic thing, like we invented this. It was throughout all of time, people got married young. And I'd like to mention, think about yourself in middle school, because middle school is typically the time where kids are now hitting puberty and becoming teenagers. During this time frame, you're going through a lot of changes physically and even mentally. And we see middle schoolers are having, attraction towards the opposite gender. They're wanting to explore the opposite gender, and even younger than that. We allow young kids at the age of maybe 13 or even younger to have a relationship, meaning a boyfriend or a girlfriend. We allow this, but when it comes as a marriage, if we say, oh, they can get married, that's not a thing. But if they want to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, okay. That part I don't understand. But, anyways, Islam doesn't allow child marriage. When someone hits the age of puberty, they are allowed to get married point blank. And that doesn't always mean a young girl marrying an old guy. It can mean two 16-year-olds getting married. As long as the girl's mahram allows for it, then it's allowed. That doesn't mean you have to get married at like 13 or right when you hit puberty, that means you have to get married. No. Many Muslims, they get married a lot older now for many different reasons, but it's essentially up to you and to your mahram. That's it. It's not that difficult to understand. Now, yes, some women may get married at the time they hit puberty. And another thing, it's not just about a man or a father marrying off his daughter to an old guy. That is not in Islam. A woman has to want to get married in the first place. If a woman is interested and is wanting the marriage and her father then allows for it, then it's okay. But forcing people into marriage is not allowed. So again, I don't understand why he keeps saying like a young girl marrying like an 80-year-old guy and the father just marrying her off. Yeah, that does happen in some countries in some situations, but that's not Islam, that's culture. Like I'm Turkish and he's also Turkish. In Turkey, that's not that common where young people, between the middle school, high school age, typically aren't getting married. It's not very typical. But if you were to go somewhere else, I don't know, like wherever people get married young, like even here in the United States, people can get married at the age of 16, which some may say that's too young, but it's allowed. So I don't understand where he's coming from. And he knows deep down that he is wrong what he's saying. And he's like making it seem like to the Muslim woman that he's talking with that she's like misunderstanding Islam. She doesn't know what she's even being a part of, which is all wrong. Islam does not allow child marriage, and Islam doesn't allow a woman to just get forced into a marriage. A woman has to want to be married in the first place, and if her mahram, like her father, allows, then it's allowed. So there's no like wrongness in this. If a girl is wanting it and her mahram or father allows it, what is the problem? If the woman wants it and her father is allowing her to get married, I don't see the problem in that. And another thing, we allow for the same, we allow for two genders to have intimacy together. That's okay, that's normal. But when a young person may want to get married to maybe an older person, that's wrong. And even, it doesn't even have to be like a 9-year-old girl. It can mean like maybe a 25-year-old girl marrying a 70-year-old guy. That's a huge age gap as well. The same for like a 9-year-old getting married to a, I don't know, 40-year-old. It's the same like time, like age gap. So I don't see the problem with that. And again, you don't have to necessarily support everything Islam says, but you do have to be aware that it is allowed, but it's not a requirement. You don't have to get married young. If you want to, if you reach the age of puberty, if you meet the standards of being able to provide for your wife, etc., and your mahram allows it, then so be it. It's fine. And this can be beneficial. And he just talks about the worst parts of it. So we see people young as 12 years old, 13 years old, having intimacy and then getting pregnant all of a sudden. We allow for this to happen rather than a young couple who likes each other, wants to get married. Her mahram allows for it. We don't accept this, but we accept young kids in schools getting having intimacy and then getting pregnant from it. That part I don't understand, because even look at your own self when you were 13, 14 years old. You've probably hit puberty by then. You were one, and you have these feelings towards the opposite gender at a young age. When you're hitting puberty and going through it, these feelings start to emerge. So it's better for a young person to get married than to commit zina and then get pregnant from that, and the father just takes off, never see him again. We allow for this. Inshallah, I helped explain this, and hopefully I did a good job explaining this even to non-Muslims who don't understand this concept in Islam. And that guy, he's wrong. And he's just trying to mislead people. And that is his goal. He's like, how Santa Claus has elves to help him. He's like Shaitan's the person, and then that's like his little sidekick. Subhanallah. But yeah, that video just didn't add up. What he was trying to debate, in a sense, it was inaccurate. So inshallah you learned something, and if you have any more questions or anything you want me to talk about, comment down below and give this video a thumbs up, and inshallah I'll make a video on whatever you want me to. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Bye guys.